What are you doing in here? Let's get you out of there. Alright, scholars, for today's lesson, we're going to be reading a story called Dear Primo. This is a story about two cousins who are writing a letter to each other. That's why I had to go check my mail, so we'll see what this is later. For today's lesson, you're going to need three things: a piece of paper, a pencil, and your listening ears. So let's go get started. Don't worry, I promise we'll get to it at the end as long as you stick around. The story that we're going to be reading today is called Dear Primo by Duncan Tonatia. This can be found in your My Book on pages 114 to 144. Don't worry, if you don't have your My Book, that's okay. I'm going to provide pictures and graphics on the screen so we can all practice our skills together. You just need to pay attention and follow directions. So, you will need, as I said before, a paper or something to write on, a pencil, and your listening ears. Today's strategy that we're going to be focusing on is reading to get the gist. It's probably been a while since you've heard your teacher say that, so let's all review together. What is reading to get the gist? We are going to focus on the first four letters. G, general information. I, ideas from the story. So this could be the central message or the theme that the author is trying to portray to us. S, summary of what is happening. And T, text features, so pictures or images that might bring ideas. So focus on all four of those during this story to help us. How can I read to get the gist? I keep forgetting. Oh, psst, there's a hint up at the top. We are going to be annotating. So when we're annotating, that's really important to help us keep track of what we're thinking. This means that we're going to write down what we are thinking while we are reading so we don't forget anything. Some ideas you can focus on are what you notice, think, wonder, predict. You can also wonder about what are some things that are similar and different, or compare and contrast about characters in the story. We can also look at the text features and some of the key words. Let's preview the story. So we're going to look at the title page and see what we notice and wonder already before jumping into the story. What do you notice about the story already? I want you to think. Think with me. I want your head to be loading those little dots as well. I'm going to ask a couple questions to help you with your thinking. What do you notice about the words underneath the title, Dear Primo? It says, a letter to my cousin. Do you think that might be a hint from the author? What are those boys doing at the bottom? So I'm going to tell you what I was thinking, and then maybe if it's the same, you could shout out, same! You're not in school. You can call out a little bit. It's okay. So I noticed that there are two characters on the front. I asked myself, I wonder if they're cousins. I did this because of the text below the title. It says, a letter to my cousin. I also used that to help me answer this question. I think they might be writing letters. At first I thought maybe they're doing homework from their awesome teacher, but then I realized it's probably a letter because that's written underneath the title. Then I noticed that the story is illustrated, but it could be realistic because what they're doing is something we all could do. Let's meet our characters. So the first character in the story we're going to be focusing on is Carlitos. He lives in Mexico. The other main character is Charlie, and he lives in the United States. We also live in the United States. Before we start reading, I just wanted to give you some things to remember. We are annotating as we are reading to keep track of our thinking. So, as the story plays, even though you don't hear my voice, we're going to be checking in about our annotations to see if they were the same or if you had different ideas than me. Also, let's keep track of some of the things that are the same and different about those two cousins. As we compare and contrast them, we can gather more information to get the gist of the story. So, I'm going to play this story now, but I want you to stay focused and see if you can come up with one or two annotations by the time I check in. All right, let's get started. Before we jump into the story, I want you to notice that there's going to be some words that are in Spanish. But I want to challenge you to try to use the context clues or some images and labels on the screen to figure out what those words might mean. We can check in about meaning as the story goes on. So let's get ready to annotate.
Dear Primo, A Letter to My Cousin by Duncan Tonatia. Score! I just got a letter from my primo, my cousin, Carlitos. I live in America, but he lives in Mexico, where my family is from. Maybe someday we'll meet, dear Primo Charlie. How are you? Do you wonder like me what life is like far away? I live on a farm surrounded by mountains and trees. My family grows many things such as maíz. We have a burro, pollos, and a gallo. Every morning the gallo crows and crows. Maíz, burro, gallo, pollos. Dear Primo Carlitos, I live in a city. From my window, I can see a bridge and cars zooming by. I can see skyscrapers too. Skyscrapers are buildings so tall they tickle the clouds. At night, all the lights from the city look like the stars from the sky. Every morning, I ride my bicicleta to school. I ride it past the perros and past a nopal. Nopal. Perros. I ride the subway to school. The subway is like a long metal snake and it travels through tunnels underground.
Psst, me up here. Okay, it's time to annotate. Before we do that, I'm going to give you some hints about what I might have annotated. Look at the text and the different pictures and the hints that the author might be giving us about who's speaking at what time. Also, look at the little labels on the Spanish words. I'm going to take my time and finish my annotation, and we'll check in about 30 seconds. You've got this. For me to share my annotation with you. As I'm sharing my annotation, if you notice something that's similar to what you wrote, you can yell out same. If you think I forgot something, it's okay, shout it out. I might not hear you since I'm all the way at my house, but it doesn't hurt. I put these little bubbles right here because an inner conversation is the thought process or the conversation that's happening in our head as the story's read. So I wrote down mine and I'm going to share it with you. I noticed that the author is using different fonts, just like in the little example over there, and separations in the pages to show which cousin is talking. I thought it was a little tricky at first to realize which cousin was writing the letter, but now that I've noticed that little secret trick, it's really helpful for me to be able to tell if it's Carlitos talking in the story or Charlie. So when we start the story again, I want you to see if you noticed that, and if you haven't already, see if there's any other tricks that the author is trying to give us in the story. Let's keep reading. Enough talking, Mr. Osta. Time to get back into the story. Don't forget to annotate as we're listening.
At recess time, I play football. My friend passes me the ball, I kick it with my foot, and if I score, I yell, "Goal! Goal!" I play basketball. My friend dribbles the ball and passes it to me. I jump and shoot. The ball goes swoosh, nothing but net. When I come home from school, I help my mom cook. My favorite meal is quesadillas. I make them with cheese and tortillas. Quesadillas. Tortillas. In America, we have lots of different foods. My favorite is pizza. I like getting a slice on my way home from school. After I finish my homework, my mom lets me go outside and play. In Mexico, we have many games like trompos and canicas.
Even though
Trompo,
I'm listening to a
canicas.
story, I think it's good practice if I try to read one of the pages every once in a while. I'm going to read the next page. My favorite game is papalotes. My friends and I run, and with a little wind, we fly the papalote high up.
When I finish my homework, I play games with my friends from the building. We play by the stoop and in each other's apartments too. I like going over to my friend's home to play video games. Video. The word video describes a recording of movements and actions that you can see on a television or computer screen. In the afternoon, it often gets hot. To cool off, I jump in a small rio that is nearby. Rio. In the summer, the city gets hot too. I like getting splashed by the fire hydrant when the firefighters open it up and close off the block. Hydrant. A hydrant is an outdoor pipe firefighters use to get water to put out fires. Block. A block is a section of a community with streets on all of its sides.
Ah, so many annotations. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to catch up with me. I don't even know how they got all there. I want to share my annotation with you, but I can't seem to find it. Well, that would be it. My annotation for this last section was, I think that these cousins have a lot in common, so I am comparing these two cousins. I predict that they might start to become close friends. I wonder if they will ever meet. Was anybody else wondering the same thing? I feel like because they share interests in sports, being active, and enjoyment in different kinds of food, I feel like they'd be a good match for each other. So I wonder if the author will have them meet near the end of the story. Let's see. Let's keep reading. Wait, what? I have something on my what? Oh my gosh. I knew I was missing an annotation. Well, I better make up for it by reading this page. On the weekend, I go with my parents to the mercado, an open-air market in the town nearby. We sell maize and tunas, a prickly fruit that we grow. We also buy the food and other things we need.
On the weekend, I go with my mom to the supermarket. She brings a list: milk, toothpaste, soap, and I check off the items as we put them in our cart. In the town from time to time, they have fiestas that last 2 or 3 days. At night, there are cohetes that light up the sky and mariachis that play and play. Cohetes. Mariachis. In my city, sometimes we have parades. People in costumes and uniforms march down the street, and everyone gathers around to watch. Costumes. Costumes are special clothes that people may wear to pretend that they are from another time or place. March. When people march, they walk with even steps, often in a group. There are charros in Mexico that I wish you could see. They do tricks with their caballos and reatas. Charros. Reata. Caballo. On the streets here, you can see break dancers who do flips and spin on their heads. In Mexico, we have so many traditions, such as Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead.
My turn, over here. My favorite tradition is attending the December parties called posadas. At the end of each posada, there is a piñata filled with fruits and sweets. When someone breaks it, we all get to jump in. You know what to do. Drum roll, please, for the next annotation. I like how the author uses labels to show me what the Spanish words mean, so that way I can comprehend the story even though I don't know what those Spanish words mean. Did you guys notice those labels? If you haven't already, I want you to look on the next part of the story to notice the labels. Also, I noticed something else. I noticed that most of the Spanish words are coming from Carlitos. I'm wondering if Charlie speaks Spanish at all, or if he'll learn Spanish from the letters just like we are. All right, this is our last little section of the text that we're going to read before we do our last annotation. I want you to dig deep here. Think about the change that the author does in the pattern of the story. It's coming up soon, so be on the lookout. You've got this. It's your last annotation.
In America, we have traditions too, such as Thanksgiving when we eat turkey, and Halloween when we dress up and go trick-or-treating. But I have to stop writing now. My mom just told me I have to brush my teeth and go to bed. I have an idea. My primo should come visit me.
Okay, so that's it. Write down your last annotation. Maybe talk about a prediction that you had that came true or something that surprised you in the last portion of the text. Go ahead and get writing. Can you guys see me? Oh, how did this get on there? Anyways, last annotation. Let me share what I thought of that last section. I think my prediction was right. The two primos, or cousins, met. So the author had them meet at the end of the story, which I was really hoping for. I also think they're really getting along. I noticed this because they have their arms around each other while they're walking. And there's no text on the screen at all. So I think that the author kind of wants you to gather your own ideas about what's going on after the story ends. Now that the story is complete, I want you to take a second and think about your 4 annotations and think, could you tell somebody what the story was about? Could you tell them about different text features? Or would you be able to tell them what the gist of the story was about? Hopefully, if you use your annotations, that will help you to be able to say that you read to get the gist of this story. That's right, activity time, my favorite part of the lesson. We are going to be practicing something that we learned today in the story. So, before I tell you what it is, you will need a paper, pencil, your brain, which I know you already have ready after all that work annotating. You're also going to need a good creative attitude. So, let's find out what we're doing. Our goal for this part of the activity is to write a postcard or a letter to somebody that we know. So just like in the story, we're going to write a letter or a postcard to somebody we already know. Start thinking about who you might want to write your letter to. It's always a great way to cheer somebody up. You're going to need to make sure that you include things about you, such as your favorite food, hobbies, sports, family traditions, and what makes you unique. You might be writing a letter to someone that already knows a lot about you, but try to be creative and think about what you could share with them that they might not already know. I'm going to show you my example. I'm writing this letter to a friend at my school, Miss Uzinski. I am writing her a letter to check in with her and also maybe cheer her up. So it says, "Dear Miss Uzinski, I hope you are doing well and staying healthy. I have been staying busy during this unusual time by doing some of my favorite things. I have been reading books every day. Some are fiction and some are informational. I have also been going for runs and trying to stay active by playing sports with my brother Joseph. I even got to take part in my favorite family tradition the other day, Pizza Fridays. I hope I hear back from you soon. From your friend, Miss Starosta." So let's check out those parts so that you can make sure you get some of the important parts just like I did. Up at the top, I have a greeting. You could say dear and their name. Then you're going to include information. So remember those tips I gave you before about your favorite sports or different things you like to do to share with them. And then at the end, you want to sign it from your name. So that's called the closing. And you can add some pictures just to make it a little bit more bright and exciting. I'm going to rewrite this letter on a piece of paper and mail it to her just to cheer her up. So it's your turn. I want you to think about who you're going to mail your letter to, write down some of your ideas about what you include in your letter, and then start to draft a letter. When it's all done, write the address out and mail it to them. You could really cheer somebody up. Good luck and be creative. Well, that's all for today's lesson. Thanks for tuning in to Miss Starosta's Digital Classroom. I enjoyed reading Dear Primo with you and reading to get the gist. In honor of the story, I wrote you guys a little letter. Dear Scholars, thanks for tuning in. Come back tomorrow for another opportunity to learn and grow. Love, Miss Starosta. And don't worry, I didn't forget. You have to find out what's in here. Thanks for watching.